Hi Year 11, welcome to this quick run through of our English language paper 2 Easter revision session. If you are planning on working alongside this video, answering the questions and pausing the video to do so, then you will need access to the June 2020 paper 2, which you can download from the AQA website using the QR code on your revision sheets. So I'm going to walk you through questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and then also question 5. So the first thing you want to do when you get into the exam is you want to read both texts. You have a total of 15 minutes in which you can read these two texts. Now, my suggestion is that as you read these texts, you take time to just summarise each paragraph with a word or two. This will make it much easier for you when you need to skim read the text to pick out information for questions 2, 3, and 4. Now, some of you may choose to go on and answer question 1 and then answer question 5, but for the purpose of today's session, I'm going to work through in order. So starting with question 1, you should spend no longer than 5 minutes on this question. You need to start by rereading the designated lines, and in this instance, it's lines 1 to 4. You then need to read the statements that you've been given and select the 4 statements that are true. You need to read each statement carefully, and when you're certain that the statement you feel is true, then you need to colour in the little circle inside the square. It's important you fill this in properly as it may be marked by a computer. A bit of advice for you is before you commit to colouring in the circle, place a tick on the left-hand side of the letter for every statement that you believe to be true. If you've got 4 statements there and you feel confident about them, then the likelihood is those are the 4 correct answers. If you've got less than 4 or more than 4, then it will prompt you to do a bit of extra checking. Once you've done question 1, you can move on to complete the paper in the order that you wish. So question 2 is the first question that asks you to consider both texts at the same time. And it is going to ask you to write a summary of what you understand about either the differences or the similarities of a specific focus. It is incredibly important that you pay close attention to which focus you're being directed to, as an incorrect focus will make it impossible for you to achieve more than 3 marks. You may be asked to write about the differences, or you may be asked to write about the similarities. In this instance, you're being asked to write about the differences between the companions, Simon and Maurice. You should spend no more than 10 minutes on this question, as it's only worth a total of 8 marks. You're aiming to write 2 SQI plus SQI paragraphs. Remember, when answering this question, to try and use connectives such as both texts, however, whereas, in contrast, etc. To do this question, you need to skim read the 2 texts very quickly, so using those one-word summaries will help you. Jot down 2 or 3 differences or similarities between the question, and then turn each difference into an SQI plus SQI paragraph, like this one. Both writers have a companion on their adventure. However, in source A, Simon is part of the climbing partnership, which suggests they have equal skill. But it also states that they had changed from climbing to rescue, which suggests that Simpson is currently reliant on Simon for his survival. Whereas, in source B, Belle has hired Maurice as a local guide. This suggests the relationship is unequal, as he's been paid to ensure her survival and help her to achieve her mission. You can see here in this paragraph that the student has used 3 comparative phrases. They've made several clear statements. They've used short embedded quotations, and they've made inferences. It's the inferences, the green writing, that will get you the most marks, if you will. So you need to make sure that your inferences are really spot on. Moving on to question 3. For question 3, you need to again only focus on one of the texts and a designated set of lines. That's lines 23 to 31 in this instance. It asks you, how does the writer use language to describe how he feels? You should spend approximately 12 minutes on this question, as it's worth 12 marks, and you're aiming to write approximately 3 what, how, why paragraphs. Unlike paper 1, this section of text is not reprinted for you, so my first piece of advice is that you draw a box around the designated lines. Then read and annotate the extract, about 3 to 5 quotes. You then need to take those quotations and write 3 detailed analytical what, how, why paragraphs. Remember, we need to know what technique the writer is using, what are they telling us, how are they using that technique, and then why have they chosen to use that technique. Look at this example. Simpson uses the metaphor flare of agony to help the reader visualise the pain he feels as something physical, even violent. The noun flare conjures up an explosive image of leaping flames, as if his leg is literally on fire, suggesting the intense sudden pain he feels each time his leg is jolted. Notice that this student has chosen to focus on the word flare as their single word analysis and not the word agony. This is an excellent choice because there's only really one thing we can say about agony, and that is it means they're in a lot of pain. Whereas flare has a number of different meanings. Flare can mean something to do with fire. It has connotations of flames or perhaps even an explosive image. It may make us think of fire or those flare guns that are sent out as a warning signal. Therefore, flare is an excellent choice because there's more than one thing the writer can say about it. And that's exactly what you need to be doing in your answer. So moving on to question 4. Question 4 is the second question that asks you to focus on both all of source A and all of source B. It asks you to asks you to compare how writers convey their very different feelings and perspectives on their adventures in the mountains. Now, if it says feelings and perspectives, or it says feelings and it says attitudes, or it says attitudes and perspectives, what it's asking you is to consider how the writer is thinking, how the writer is feeling, how the writer experienced something. So in your answer, you should compare the different feelings and perspectives. You should compare the methods that they use. And it's worth pointing out that those methods can be language-based, structure-based. And you should support your response with reference to both texts. This question is worth 16 marks and you should spend approximately 18 minutes on it. You're looking at writing 3 comparative what, how, why paragraphs. So that's similar to the previous question, as in you're writing a what, how, why, but your what, how, why paragraph needs 2 parts to it. And that second part should have a connective, such as both texts, however, whereas. So again, you're going to need to skim read these 2 texts carefully. Again, those 1 sentence or 1 word summaries will really support you with that. Jot down 2 to 3 differences, or if the question asks you to, similarities between the perspectives that the writers are introducing to you. For each idea, you need to jot down a quotation or a method used, and then you want to turn each of those into a comparative what, how, why paragraph. If we look at our level 1 response here, it says the writer in source A is not very happy because he's broken his leg and he's not having fun. He uses the word torture, which shows that it really hurts. This is different to source B because the writer is very happy about her adventure. She says descended safely, so we know that she is not hurt and is probably happy about climbing the mountain. This student's answer has clear statements, uses connectives, has embedded quotations, but their analysis, the why section, is actually very limited. So let's look at the level 3 response. In source A, Simpson is uncertain about how he feels. His emotions switch from feeling hopeful to hopeless. Straight away, in that opening sentence, we can see that this student has a much better grasp of how the writer is feeling. This is shown when he starts the extract with, "We had lost that sense of hopelessness," but ends with the extract, "My optimism evaporated." So the reader can share his feelings of hope and despair. However, this is very different to source B. In source B, Belle starts the letter to her sister by saying that she has descended safely, which tells the reader that it ends well. This means the reader doesn't get as involved in the writer's emotions as they do in source A. Also, the rest of the letter describes the climb like a flashback, but there's hardly any suspense because the reader already knows that she gets back safely. Belle says that she feels complete satisfaction about her adventure, demonstrating how delighted she is that she's returned successfully with only a few bruises, whereas Simpson seems worried about losing his leg. In that response, you can see that the student has provided a far more detailed analysis of what has happened. You can also see that they've made 3 comparative points and they're bouncing between the two. This is good practice to make sure that you're writing about both texts. We're going to move on to section B now. So section B is the writing task. You are likely to have been advised by your teacher to do question 5 before you do the other questions. And this is advice that I would echo. You want to make sure that you spend no longer than 45 minutes on this section. You must write your answers in full sentences and they must be correctly organised. You should also leave enough time at the end to check your work. The question will be made up of a statement. The statement will have several elements to it. You do not have to address all elements of the statement. Simply done that way so that there's something that everybody can find to agree or disagree with. Unlike paper 1 question 4, this is not an answer where you have to start by saying that you agree or disagree. Rather, you have to use your manipulative writing skills to show your viewpoint. The first thing you need to do when you get to this section is read the question. People have become obsessed with travelling even further and faster. However, travel is expensive, dangerous, damaging, and a foolish waste of time. Write an article for a news website in which you argue your point of view on this statement. Once you've read that question, you should spend 2 minutes jotting down some ideas as to whether you agree or disagree with this statement. Take 2 minutes now to jot down your initial thoughts. If you wish to score a mark of 30 in this exam, one way to look at it is that you need 18 marks, which means that you are being consistent and clear, and 12 marks, which means that your punctuation, spelling and grammar is accurate. It asks you to make sure that your register is consistently matched to audience. That means you should be writing in standard English in a semi-formal way. You're being asked to ensure that you consistently match the purpose. Your purpose is to argue and persuade. It says that you need increasingly sophisticated vocabulary and phrasing chosen for effect with a range of successful linguistic devices. That means you want to be employing specific types of sentences, that you're thinking very carefully about your vocabulary, and where appropriate, you're using figurative language. It also means that you need to have an effective use of structural features. Therefore, making sure that your article, letter, speech, whatever it is you're being asked to do is written correctly is important. Your writing should be engaging, connecting ideas, and you need to have coherent paragraphs with integrated discourse markers. And when we go through the example in a minute, hopefully you're going to see how that works. For your spelling, punctuation and grammar, you're looking to show the examiner that you can use a range of mostly secure and mostly accurate punctuation, that your spelling is accurate, that you're using standard English. You'll also notice that again, vocabulary is mentioned. Therefore, the words that you choose to express your ideas are important. Once you've annotated the question, you can spend up to another 4 minutes gathering your views to add to your plan. Now, these views can be based on what you've read earlier on in the exam. For example, we know in text A that the writer Simpson has been injured through his climbing, therefore proving that adventure travel can be dangerous. However, we also know that in source B, she pays good money to have a local guide, and because of this, she has a really good time. Therefore, you could use those as examples to work into your writing. It's absolutely fine to do so. Just make sure that you don't copy those ideas completely. Once you've done that, you need to create your outline plan. And the best way to do this is to write a 5-sentence response to the question. This will form the basis of your article. So take 6 minutes now just to jot down 5 sentences that answer this question. People have become obsessed with travelling even further and faster. However, travel is expensive, dangerous, damaging, and a foolish waste of time. Before we go on to look at how we can do this writing, some tips that you may have seen on the internet or in your English lessons that have come from Mr. Salaz's website say that you can include these 10 devices to help improve your article writing. And certainly I would advocate using these along with some of the other techniques that I'm going to talk to you about in a moment, to provide an almost checklist of features to include to maximise the wow factor for your writing to really encourage the examiner to reward you highly. The first thing you need to write is your headline and strapline. Now, your headline doesn't need to be catchy, but it does need to give an indication of what viewpoint you need to share. Your strapline, which must be written underneath your headline, should provide a clearer indication of the view. Now, in an exam, sometimes we find that our minds go slightly blank. So one way that we can combat this is by using what we're calling cheat codes. Now, they're not really cheat codes, you're not cheating, it's just about being well prepared. So what you can do is you can use the section B question words to create a rhetorical question as your headline. So for example, is travel really a foolish waste of money? Or travel, a foolish waste of time and money, or an individual's right? That second way of writing a headline is my favourite because I'm already showing the examiner that I can use a colon and a question mark accurately. Now for my strapline, I can write a 5-word sentence, can be a little bit shorter, can be a little bit longer, that ends in an exclamation mark, such as travel broadens the mind. Now by both the headline and strapline working together, I'm starting to establish how my viewpoint is going to be presented. Take 2 minutes now to write your own headline and own strapline. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to write your introduction. Now, your introduction should start with an adverb. That's going to help make it really powerful. It's also a really good idea to make sure that you place a comma after that adverb. That becomes your topic sentence. You then need to include supporting sentences and a closing sentence. I want you to also try to consider using an anecdote in your introduction so that they become really powerful and meaningful. But again, if we think about what else we could include, we can think about starting with an adverb and including a statistic. By doing so, we're really showcasing our skills. Unsurprisingly, 60% of teenagers have a trip to Dubai at the very top of their travel bucket list. Thanks to TikTok and Insta, many are tempted by the once-in-a-lifetime sights, wonderful climate, and thrilling experiences that this paradise has to offer. There is no denying that travel, especially to faraway locations like Dubai, is expensive. But should we really miss out on our dreams and experiences because we are made to feel guilty for splashing our hard-earned cash on a holiday? By starting with an adverb and a statistic, it places us in a formal stance. It means that we are writing and using persuasive techniques. You'll also notice that I've also used brackets correctly. This means that I'm showing the examiner another type of sentence and another type of punctuation I can use. Once I've done my introduction, I'm going to take my second sentence from my plan, and I'm going to use that as the topic sentence for my second paragraph. This time I'm starting with the present participle. That's an ing word. Again, we need the completed topic sentence, the supporting sentence, and a closing sentence. So let's look at how we could do this. Well, we can start with an ing word, but also include a not only but sentence. And then, to give us a bit more oomph to our paragraph, we can use the more sentence. It might look something like this. Travelling not only allows us to visit different locations, but also allows us to broaden our horizons as we meet new people, learn about new cultures, and ultimately learn more about the world around us. The more that we travel, the more that we learn, the more that we grow as individuals, and therefore surely we can see that travel isn't a waste of time, but rather an investment in the most important thing we have, ourselves. You'll notice that both a semicolon and a dash have been used here to create appropriate pauses or to draw attention to a key idea such as ourselves. These are both really valuable techniques that show the examiner that you're using a range of sentence structures and a range of punctuation accurately. Pause the video now to have a go at writing your own paragraph. The third paragraph is going to introduce an alternative view. So you're going to take the third sentence from your plan and you're going to start it with a connective. That connective needs to introduce your alternative view. However, there is no denying that the impact that air travel has on the world we're so keen to explore, certainly if we do not find more sustainable ways to explore the world, then in the not too distant future, there may not be much of a world left to explore. That paragraph is too short. It's got a warning tone to it, but I feel like it needs a little bit more. And we can achieve this through using pair verbs and pairs of adjectives. Carefully planning and offsetting, there are verbs, our air travel can help to make exotic getaways more sustainable. For example, ensuring that you only travel by direct flights and paying to invest in approved and accredited, there are adjectives, carbon offset projects will actively help to lower carbon emissions. Have a pause now and write your paragraph introducing your alternative viewpoint. Our penultimate paragraph is going to use our fourth sentence from our plan. And this time we're going to use a preposition at the start of our topic sentence. A preposition is a word that gives us an indication of time or place, or in relation to something. In a lot of instances, one of the best prepositions to use is before. Before you think that expensive air travel is the only option for sustainably visiting the far reaches of the globe, why not plan an epic journey across the world using rail links? Unbelievably, you can travel from Birmingham to Singapore using only buses and trains. Now, that includes my topic sentence, and it also has a supporting sentence, but actually I feel like it needs more of a closing sentence. So again, to wow the examiner and show them that I know another type of sentence, I'm going to use a triple adjective colon. Exciting, exhilarating, and thrilling, colon. Imagine all the things you would see on that trip of a lifetime. Now I have a far more powerful, consciously crafted paragraph. Pause now and have a go at your fourth paragraph. Finally, we need to write our conclusion. Our conclusion needs some sort of a call to action. And one of the easiest ways to achieve this is to use an imperative or a command. Now, the conclusion is probably the only one of these paragraphs where you don't have to have a supporting and closing sentence. In fact, a very powerful conclusion can be a single sentence paragraph. We could use for that the show me and I'll show you sentence structure. Show me a happy individual and I'll show you someone who has travelled. You can see that by ending with that one sentence, we're making a point and we're having some impact. We've used a number of these top tips, as well as the cheat codes that I've suggested, to write a piece of writing which scores highly. Let's look at it all together. Is travel really a foolish waste of money? Travel broadens the mind. Unsurprisingly, 60% of teenagers have a trip to Dubai at the very top of their bucket list. Thanks to TikTok and Insta, many are tempted by the once-in-a-lifetime sights, wonderful climate and thrilling experience that this paradise has to offer. There is no denying that travel, especially to faraway locations like Dubai, is expensive. But should we really miss out on our dreams and experiences because we're made to feel guilty for splashing our hard-earned cash on a holiday? Traveling not only allows us to visit different locations, but also allows us to broaden our horizons as we meet new people, learn about new cultures, and ultimately learn more about the world around us. The more that we travel, the more that we learn, the more that we grow as individuals, and therefore surely we can see that travel isn't a waste of money, but rather an investment in the most important thing we have, ourselves. However, there is no denying that the impact that air travel has on the world that we are so keen to explore. Certainly, if we do not find more sustainable ways to explore the world, then in the not too distant future, there may not be much of a world left to explore. Carefully planning and offsetting our air travel can help to make exotic getaways more sustainable. For example, ensuring that you only travel by direct flights and paying to invest in approved and accredited carbon offset projects will actively help to lower carbon emissions. Before you think that expensive air travel is your only option for sustainably visiting the far reaches of the globe, why not plan an epic journey across the world using rail links? Unbelievably, you can travel from Birmingham to Singapore using only buses and trains. Exciting, exhilarating, and thrilling. Imagine all the things you would see on that trip of a lifetime. Show me a happy individual, and I'll show you someone who has travelled the world. If you take a look at this completed essay that we've written today, you can see by the highlighting and the different colours and the underlining, all of the different techniques and punctuation and vocabulary and sentence structures that are being used. And these are the things that are going to help you score highly and do really well in this section of exam. I hope this has been a useful video for you, and I wish you all very much good luck. Thank you.